Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Church Windows User Group webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Before we go on to our topic at hand, setting up or adding a new asset account or changing banks, as the case as the topic is titled, we're going to talk about a few things. If you've not attended a webinar before, click the little red arrow at the side of your webinar control panel there. Allows you to minimize the control panel, get it out of the way, or if you've got a second monitor, go ahead and drag that off to your second desktop. Gets it out of the way, allows you to get the full visual effect of the presentation. As always, the webinar events are recorded, so the video of this particular event will be released on our website here sometime in the next few days or so. Look for that on the support center at churchwindows.com. We're going to be here together till 20 minutes after the hour, no later than, at least in terms of discussing the topic. If you've seen what you came to see at any particular point, you can choose the file, menu, exit, leave webinar. Thank you so much in advance for attending. I will certainly be happy to stick around after we're done to answer questions. I just ask that we simply keep the questions on topic here about setting up or adding a new asset account. I'm happy to answer other questions. Generally, I would ask that we do that on a support call, simply because I may not be equipped to answer your question or may need more information from you. It's not because I don't want to. I oftentimes can't answer it without more preparation or time or information. So we're not using a workbook today. We're using actually a document on our support center here. So if we go to Supporting Church Windows Support Center, and what is the key word we're doing here? Asset. I know that we've got it in here. Sorry, folks, bear with me here. Let's try bank instead. Sorry, I had this beforehand. Changing banks, there it is right here. So if we go to the support center, click under accounting, changing banks. Let me steer some focus here with my highlighter right here. Or that's using contributions, or down here changing banks using donations. Most of you are probably using donations, so the one for contributions is probably irrelevant. But FYI, if you are still using contributions for whatever reason, if you click on the one, you can find it there. Here we can click on it. There's a PDF file, and that's the document I'm using as our guide for the webinar event today. The reason why this becomes an important topic is because it's a question we get a lot. Churches will change banks frequently. It's like any place, you as a person may change banks, every, few years or so, maybe not, but it happens. So we just talk about the webinars or bring up the webinars or schedule them based on what we hear through support. And so changing banks is one that we felt warranted a particular webinar topic. So the first of the 5 steps is you've got to set up the new account in the chart of accounts. So when we launch accounting, a lot of folks go, oh, well, can't I just rename my current asset? Well, no, because again, that's a completely separate account with a completely separate bank reconciliation, separate checks, separate activity. And so and it's going to be a real challenge to reconcile, virtually impossible, unless we set it up actually in reality as it occurs as a new bank. Okay, so what we would do is go up to Manage Accounts here in the upper left, Accounts plus minus, Asset, and I'm going to create a new asset account name. So we'll call this, BOA Checking. And then when we come down to our account number, we do have to give it another number. So again, it's going to be separate from our Huntington Bank checking. So we'll make this say 110-103. And it's going to go into our total current assets and investments, and we simply click Add Account. Okay, so it now adds it to our chart list of other assets here down at the bottom, right here. Everybody should see that below my Huntington Bank checking. Okay, So step one of the several steps that we've got here is dealt with and taken care of. Okay. Step two is we need to move the money from whatever old asset is funding that new account to the new account. And how that generally occurs, and this is again a very common support question, is we're going to go up to transactions and across the top center to the option here called transfer. Again, let me get out my highlighter, steer some focus right up here. See how well I can draw an arrow today. Not too bad. Right up there. And so just an FYI, we'll click on transfers. It opens up our enter transfers window entering the date occurred that the new account, the check is being written, or however it's occurring, it's being funded. We're going to enter that date. Again, these are going to be items that we're going to reconcile on both of these accounts. So my from account is going to be my Huntington Bank checking, and my to account is going to be my BOA checking. There it is. I'm going to enter the amount, let's say, $5,000. And this is a very important thing here, folks, this is a very commonly misunderstood thing about the transfers is we don't need to enter a bill and pay a bill to deal with this. The transfers function allows us to choose a payment method that supports how we're going to fund this new account, including computer prepared check. So if I choose computer check, it's going to put a check into the print queue as though I were entering and paying a bill, but we're not. We're just moving money from one bank account to another. So there is no need to enter a bill, charge an expense unnecessarily, and then go back in and enter income when we have this wonderful feature called transfer that allows us to produce a check if we want, or if it's being dealt with electronically, choose EFT. But whatever, choose the payment method that best supports how you're establishing or creating that payment to open that new account. And we would enter comments to establish new checking account. If I could type today. And then done add to batch. And as we generally will frequently do, is I recommend strongly clicking show running balance. It shows now that our Huntington Bank on our running balance window shows that our Huntington Bank checking is being reduced by $5,000. Our new BOA checking is going from zero to a $5,000 balance. It's having the desired effect. I have nothing there. I've minimized or reduced my mistakes on this, and I simply click post. Okay. One of the most important things on this sheet that I hope you'll take away from this is that on that step 2, that it says note, when switching bank checking accounts, that money usually remains in the same fund balance account. There isn't generally any need in most cases to post a fund transfer. Okay? Unless, again, we're talking about changing or switching banks as opposed to setting up a new bank account that perhaps supports a new fund. We're not going to print this. But yes, now if I go to my, Bank of America or to my chart of accounts and look at my, Huntington Bank checking or my BOA checking, my balance shows a zero balance in July, a $5,000 balance in June or in August and beyond, because I've now funded that or put a balance into that account. And so the transfer function it'll show as a withdrawal or a check out of my Huntington Bank checking, and it will then all subsequently show as a deposit to my BOA checking. And finally, when we go to print checks, he said, there's my computer check screen waiting for me to print a check if I need to. Okay? Again, very important, commonly overlooked feature is no need to enter a bill when transferring from one asset to another. Whether it's new or existing, doesn't matter. You can choose transfer, asset transfer, and produce a check anytime you wish. Okay? Step 3, set the new default checking account if necessary. So if it becomes your new primary checking, what this is referring to is going up to special functions at the top, settings in the upper left. Let me again steer some focus right up here. Settings under special functions. Hey, 2 good arrows in one webinar, not bad. So there's our settings. Here now, up here under our default asset, right here, default asset account, I can change that now to my new Bank of America checking if I wish. So simply by choosing it, click OK. It's now set as default. So anytime I go into pay bills or enter income, it's going to bring up that Huntington Bank checking or that Bank of America checking anytime. So if I go to enter income, it should come up right away. And what do you know? Right there at the very top left, right here, asset account, here's my BOA checking. Okay? Very important. Link donations, giving accounts to new checking account. This is very important too. So if my donations are going to be transferred over to and transferred into my new Bank of America checking account, I have to remember either in donations to do it or here in accounting, go up to transactions again at the top left, click transfer donations right here. Not so good of arrow that time, but that's okay. Then click under transfer donations. Click on the tab here at the top called default account links. Right here. And here under our debit account column, maybe I need to change my where my Huntington Bank checking is to my default asset, my new Bank of America checking, by simply clicking in each one of these fields and clicking there and choosing and changing that account. Maybe, maybe not. Okay? But the church has to decide that. And again, and all we're doing really is we're just dotting our I's, crossing our T's to ensure that we're changing it in all of the appropriate locations on that. Okay? If you're keeping the old account, certainly you can leave that there. But if it's ultimately going to close, you definitely want to change it over to the new account here. This is the en masse location where we can do that. All of my giving accounts can be changed right here. Okay? The fifth and final step as part of this process is to go over to Church Windows Payroll module, go into System Administration and Account Number Setup here, second item in the list. Maybe go down here to my Set Defaults and change it, my checking account from my Huntington Bank checking to my Bank of America checking, and then simply clicking Apply Defaults. So each employee, now I have to go through next on each of them and click Apply Defaults to make sure that everyone now is posting over and linking to my new checking account. Okay? Yep, and they're all done. So I've done that. Now I can click OK through that. So now all of those payrolls, checks that are from August 14th and beyond of 2017 are now going to link over and post, and those checks are going to, or direct deposit, are going to be deducted from my Bank of America account as opposed to my Huntington Bank. Okay? Now, there is one other thing on here that isn't written on this document, and I'm actually going to have somebody deal with this and address this, is there's one other location in accounting that's not included in this document that I want to make sure that we're not overlooking. And that is, if you go into Manage Accounts and into our chart of accounts and we scroll, well, we're going to collapse all. We're going to go down to our fund balances. And if I say click on my general operating fund, and this may be true for any of them, right over here on the right-hand side on our Detail tab, we do have the menu called Asset. So if you use this feature where you appreciate and like the warning that it brings up when you're trying to pay a bill or enter income and post it into a different asset, you may need to come into here and change this here as well. Let me get back my regular drawing tool. So here, you can scroll down and choose, I can choose my Bank of America checking here. There it is instead of. Now again, some folks use this, some don't. Okay? Just as a friendly reminder, this doesn't mean that it's going to automatically post payments to the particular account. Okay? All it means is that when I attempt to pay a bill under Pay Bills or enter income in or out of my general operating fund balance, and it doesn't and I don't choose my Bank of America checking account, it's going to pop up with a warning at Pay Bills that says, hey, you're attempting to pay a bill from an asset account whose associated fund is different than the one that you're selecting. Would you like to continue? So you can still continue to post out of the wrong account, but I'm going to have this document amended to include that 6th step that shows there if you do, there is still no direct link between assets and subsequently funds. This is a feature that we wrote into the software several versions ago that it simply offers up a warning, but there's still no to this day a direct link between assets and funds, okay? But for some of you, this could be an important step, okay? So I didn't want to overlook it. All right, folks, well, that's our topic for the day. Those are the big changes that need to occur in the software when changing banks, or at least things to consider. We've got about another 4 minutes left in the webinar. Let me see if there's any questions coming in here. Doesn't look like we've got anybody that's typed in any questions to me yet. Maybe I'll give you a little time there to type something in if you have it. Again, just as a reminder, the video of this event will be on our support center here sometime in the next few days or so. And again, please review that document. I'm going to have somebody take a peek at that and add that 6th item here. It'll change sometime in the next few days. Well, I don't see anything still coming in. I must have done a very thorough job on this. When you print checks, will the new default account? I'm assuming that means, Michelle, you're asking if it'll show up automatically. Well, no, it'll be on the list, certainly. Yeah, so if I go to print checks, it's going to show up with Huntington Bank checking. Oh, no, that's a good question. Hang on. Oh, yeah, right, because, again, it's coming out of my new account. So, yes, the only way that it's going to show up my Bank of America checking is when I actually have posted payments out of that account. But, yes, the reason why it's still showing my Huntington Bank checking is because this $5,000 check is what's funding that new asset. It's not the account from which the Bank of America's account's not the one from which the check's being written. But as soon as I do pay bills from that BOA account, you betcha, there'll be checks in this list. You bet, from that account. Good question. All right, let me see what else we got in here. Nothing else coming in, folks. All right, well, I'll go ahead and end the webinar for everybody here. Again, I'm figuring I allowed 60 or 90 seconds here for folks to type in questions. Hopefully, this is, again, provide some help and detail for you. I'll go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. We hope you will continue to attend our webinar events, and we hope it's been helpful. Thank you all so much. All right, take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.